This is my review for The Collector, the 2009 film starring Josh Stewart and directed by Marcus Dunston. Now, as soon as I saw the names Dunston and Melton on the title cards, I instantly thought of the Saw films, which I'm sort of a fan of, but it'd be interesting to know what I would have thought of this film, The Collector, if I'd have seen it when it came out in 2009, because this is also a film about a serial killer who's sort of, part of his MO is setting traps, which is obviously similar to Jigsaw in a way. So as much as I defend a lot of the later Saw films that these guys were involved in, I think even by the end of Saw 6, which came out in 2009, the same year The Collector came out, even I was starting to get a little bit tired of that kind of series. So I think it definitely helped seeing this film in 2020, put it that way. So what's the film about? It's about a guy who is a thief, and he's scoping out this rich couple's, well, I wouldn't say rich, but certainly they're upper middle class. They're got a wealthy kind of home, sort of out of the town limits, and this guy wants to steal a really expensive jewel from their safe when they go on holiday, and it's going to be the score that sorts a lot of his problems out, this guy, because his wife is in trouble with a loan shark. He's got some kind of beef with gangsters, so kind of a strange choice to have as our protagonist, a guy who's a criminal and he's got all these problems, but c'est la vie. So he goes to this couple's house in the middle of the night to try and steal this jewel, and it turns out that there's a serial killer there, slash torturer, called the Collector. Well, we know him as the Collector. He's not actually referred to that in the movie. So he's suddenly in a fight for his life because he can't get out of the house. He suddenly realizes that there's traps all over the house, and he just happened to miss them on the way up to the safe. So that's the plot. I won't take it any further than that. It's not the first time I've seen a film where we follow a thief going into a house and then it turns out that they've bitten off more than they can chew. I remember The People Under the Stairs by Wes Craven. I saw that when I was a teenager. That was a really good movie. And more recently, Don't Breathe, I think, was the name of another one. So it is something that's been done before, having this idea of a criminal as our main character in a horror film, and then on one of their excursions to rob somewhere, they end up in a fight for life and death, you know. So this guy, the Collector, he's a really, really good serial killer. It's not easy to come up with a serial killer. I mean, it took me a while. The Midnight Woodsman, that didn't come easy, you know. I was actually thinking of calling myself the Crafty Woodsman at one point, and that wouldn't have been as good as the Midnight Woodsman, would it? This guy, the Collector, he's really physical. He's good in fights. He's clearly extremely intelligent, coming up with all these traps, just like the brain of Jigsaw, literally. And he's got this creepy mask that sort of ties at the back. It's like a wrestler's mask. He's like a serial killer who used to be a wrestler or something. It's a really kind of unique look, and he looks through these slits and with this kind of wide-eyed glare, like as if he's really kind of alert to the world around him. It reminds me of that scene from Hostel, if you remember, where the main character ends up getting tortured in this room, and there's this old guy sort of getting these scissors in front of his face and going, and the guy's like wide-eyed kind of as he's doing this. Just reminded me of that. But he's a difficult serial killer, the Collector, so to sort of predict what he's going to do next, because he's sometimes, if he hears a noise possibly from the protagonist, he'll go and investigate and really be really forceful about it, blundering his way through doors. And then other times, if he knows that there's somebody close by, he'll kind of hang back, so you just don't know what he's going to do next. And his sort of motivation for doing all this, you know, torturing, killing people in this family home, is kind of unclear. We get these hints that he likes to put people in boxes and keep some people, and other people he likes to just torture and kill, but we don't really get to the bottom of why, or why you would be selected for one and not the other. It's probably set up for a sequel. I think this film would be, well, it has a sequel, 2012. I'm not sure what it's called, but I know it exists, and I think they're making a third one as well, although it's taken some time. So this is obviously a sort of a mini franchise that's gone on a little bit, although it didn't do that well at the box office. You know, I think it made something like 9 million off a 3 million budget. Certainly not Saw business, you know. But it doesn't feel, you could almost argue that it's a little bit contrived, that they deliberately leave out some of the Collector's, you know, reasons for doing things just so we can have a sequel. But I just don't think there's time in this film to actually properly explore why it is that he does what he does. You know, we have the situation in the house where we've got these people who are being tortured and killed in the basement. We've got this jewelry thief who's got to somehow possibly rescue them, get out himself. That's all we're sort of dealing with in the moment. There's no real time to explore what the collector is and what he's about away from this house, so to speak. Acting in this film is okay. We only really follow the one character. He's okay. The film goes to great lengths to try and persuade us that he's a good soul deep down and not just a thief as the film goes on. It's really kind of in your face with that. Music's very good. There's some really nice indie guitar type riffs that accompany some of the action sequences that don't feel entirely normal for this sort of film, but I thought they fit quite well. The film goes on a little bit too long. I kind of thought near the end, okay, this is getting a bit much now. I was really into this for like a certain period of time, and now it's just slightly overextending itself, but mainly that's a minor niggle. On the whole, the film is quite scary. It is a scary film, very violent, very dark. You're constantly in this house. There's no getting out of this house, even for the viewer. So, you know, there's no cutaways to a sheriff's office somewhere or somewhere safe for a couple of minutes. We're totally in this situation with this freaky human monster of a guy, and it's quite intimidating. But on the whole, it's a very good film. I think if I'm going to swing my review axe down, I'll try and miss Denzel on the way down. I'd give it probably 3.5 bloody axes out of 5. I was very close to giving it a 4, but I'm just keeping it slightly below that 4 sort of level. I think it's 3.5. Decent movie. I am interested to see the sequel. Not sure how quickly I'll do it, but certainly I will get around to watching the second one at some point. I'm curious to know more about this killer. So I guess I'll wrap up for today. I'd just like to thank my old friend Carl Smith for coming up with the new intro I've got at the beginning of my videos. I'm a bit of a technophobe, so any help I can get with stuff like that is always greatly appreciated. Thank you, Carl. But for now, I will wrap up, and I'll see you again next time. Try not to get yourselves collected.